Hello and welcome. This is Among the Runes. This is my first English video. Usually I am doing German videos about IQ and genetics, but I did this film interpretation video where I used Brahm's interpretation method, the Interpretatio Romana, to analyze the film The Illusionist. And since the slides were already prepared, I thought I could do an English version, a short English version of this video as well. So I maybe even get a quick review by Brahmin himself. We'll see. So the slides are German, but bear with me. Only at the beginning there's some introductory part where there's a lot of text, but I'm going to power through this part really quick, and the analysis part is only stills and clips from the film, so the German words shouldn't be a problem for you. At the beginning I did a quick mention of Brahmin because my viewers probably don't know him, and I have all his contact links in the description. So his website, the Apollonian Transmission, his podcast with Richard Spencer, and he is doing this interpretation method. He claims to have identified a symbol language in modern art and films especially, and I find this very interesting, and so I applied the symbol language, or I was looking for those symbols in a certain film. So my position to this whole project is kind of agnostic. I don't know really what to do with this, but I find it interesting and I want to have more discussion about it. This is why I'm doing this application video, and I found pretty many of his symbols in the film. So the question, how comes this to be? How can that be? I don't have an answer to it as of today, but of course there's some explanations as Kevin McDonald lays it out. There's evolutionary strategies behind it, but I don't have an answer for this for you today. But just let's start with the analysis. So at the beginning I'm giving you a short introduction into the Interpretatio Romana. The main concept is called the racial esoteric moralization, which means that every character in a film or in a book or another piece of art represents a racial group or an ethnic group, and his winning or losing of the game, which is laid out in the story and the adventure, moralizes or demoralizes the group which he represents. Sometimes the attribution of a figure to the racial group is very easy because there is an actor with the according skin color, but Brahmin has made out some symbols which he claims can help you to identify even then those correlations between figures and racial groups when all actors are ostensibly white. And so we have two groups, Group A and Group B. Group A represents us, Group B represents the other, which can be blacks or immigrants or Jews or whoever is in a competition with us. And so there's some conventions which help you identify the figures which represent us or the other. So there's often references to mythical figures from Greek myths or Roman myths. So there's the god Apollon, which is a figure representing us, and Dionysus is representing the other. And there Ares, Zeus, Athene, Aphrodite, and Hera are all representative for group A, for us, and Hephaestus, Hermes, or Cronus are representatives of the other. And the same applies to the Roman gods, which are an equivalent to the Greek gods. And more so, we have things that are in the sky, like the sky itself, air, or the sun, representative for us. We have lions and eagles as references. When lions or eagles are referred to in the character's name, he might or should be a representative for group A. Also, nobility, gold, or purity signals are a sign that this character is a group A representative. And for women, it's trees and wood and drink water, and also fertility or vagina symbols. The others are represented by earth, stones, fire, smoke, or things that cover up and conceal. Also iron and other metals, but not gold. Then dragons and snakes and phallic associations. These can help you to identify the characters and which group they stand for. There are also color conventions. Colors representing us are white, blue, and gold. Colors representing the other are black, brown, and green. So that's the sky colors, that's the earthy colors. And red is the color of the intermixture, where a black male character is getting access to a female group A character. So here we have the others, the stranger getting access to a woman from our group. There are many motifs which reoccur, and one of those is the Adonis motif. It is characterized by a male person of group A, a male figure representing us, a female character from group A, and a male character from group B. Both male characters are interested in the woman, and most oftentimes the woman of group A and the male of group A are in some kind of relationship. Maybe they are already married, or they are have an arrangement of any kind. But then the woman decides for the type B male character, and the type A is left alone. And a very similar or a related motif is the Daphne motif, where the type A character and the type A female character, again, he wants something from her, but she rejects him, and he's left alone. So this is the name is given in reference to the Adonis myth, where Ares and Adonis are both interested in Aphrodite, but Adonis gets to sleep with her every spring, and Ares can't do anything about it. So this is like the cuckold motif, and this is like the friend zone motif, because she prefers solitude above getting into a relationship with the male character. This is the name is given in reference to the Daphne myth, where Apollon wants something from Daphne, but she rejects him and is transformed into a tree to get rid of Apollon's advances. So she is engaging in maladaptive behavior because she literally gets old alone as a tree and prefers this to having a child with Apollon. So now we get to the analysis of The Illusionist from 2006. I give a quick plot review because some of you might not know the movie. We have those main characters, the Illusionist, with his childhood name Eduard Abramovich and his artist name Eisenheim. And we have Sophie. She is a duchess and is going to be princess. And because she is going to marry Prince Leopold, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary. And we have Walter Uhl, a police officer who's investigating on the command of the prince. And this whole story takes place in Vienna at the beginning of the 20th century. So we get to know Eduard Abramovich, the young Eisenheim, when he's a child and he is the son of a carpenter. Then he met some strange guy on the field who shows him how to do wizard tricks or uses real magic. We don't know exactly about it. It's not revealed. Then he gets to know the young Sophie and they get into a childhood relationship. But they are not accepted as a couple, so he has to leave because he is from a peasant family and she is from a noble family. And so this is the face-on reading of the movie. And so he makes some strange present for her, and then he leaves Vienna. And later, when he is an adult man, he comes back and does this magic show, this illusionist show. And he's very famous, so the prince and his going to be princess, his designated wife, are coming to visit. And Eisenheim and Sophie meet again on the stage during one of the tricks, and the prince wants Eisenheim to do a private performance for him at the castle. And there Eisenheim and Sophie recognize each other, that they know them from their childhood. And Sophie follows Eisenheim to his home and they get into the bed. So Sophie is cheating on the prince with Eisenheim. And then later she tells the prince about it, that she wants to leave the prince and wants to be with Eisenheim. And he gets really angry, understandably. And it is implied that he hits her with his sword, and she is injured and rides away on the back of the horse. Then they search for her and find her in a river, ostensibly dead. And Eisenheim is really sad about it. And the inspector starts investigating, while Eisenheim does some weird reincarnation revenant show where Sophie is on the stage as a ghost and implies that the prince has murdered her. And the audience is agitated by this and stirred up against the prince. And also some evidence shows up. There's jewels from the sword of the prince found at the crime scene and on the clothes from the dead Sophie. And when the prince is confronted with those charges and the inspector wants to arrest him, he kills himself. So But later, when the prince is dead, we find out that Sophie isn't actually dead. She wasn't murdered at all, but Eisenheim just set her into a sleeping condition, and he woke her up later, and then they are happy together at some random place. So this is the top reading, the face-on reading of the story. Eisenheim is the hero, the prince is the anti-hero, the negative person, and we like Eisenheim and we don't like the prince. This is what the audience is brought to. But if we now apply the Interpretatio Romana onto the movie, we find out that Sophie is probably a type A character representing us, because she's from a noble family, and Sophie is from the Greek Sophia, and the Athenes is the Sophia means wisdom, and Athenes is the god of wisdom. So this is, and Athenes again is a representative for type A character. So she's probably an Aryan female. And then we have the prince. The prince by itself is a reference to Apollon, because Apollon is the prince god, and Leopold can be read as Leon from Spanish lion. And again, we have the lion as a signifier for a type A, an Aryan character, and is representing us. Then Eisenheim has the word iron, that's German, Eisen, and means iron in his name, so this is a reference to a type B character. And the illusionist is like a trickster person, he's hiding things, he is using trickery, and he deludes and deceives. And furthermore, Abramovich is a Jewish name common in Russia, so I guess Eisenheim is a type B character. Then we are left with Walter Uhl, which I am not sure about, but Walter means warrior, or comes from warrior, and Mark Brahmin says this is a Aryan identifier. So I guess he is a type A character, but I'm not 100% sure. Then we have a clear Adonis motif through the whole story, because we have Sophie and the prince who are in a relationship, who are going to be married. Those are both type A characters, Apollonian characters, and then she leaves him and she gets together with Eisenheim, the Dionysian character, the type B character, and so he's left alone and he gets the woman. So this is Adonis motif here. And furthermore, he survives the whole story while the character representing us, the prince, is dead. Now we have the scene where young Eisenheim, meets his wizard master who shows him how to do magic tricks. And I just play the scene.
One version of the story was that the man himself then vanished, along with the tree. Who knows what actually happened?
So he meets the guy who shows him some minor tricks, and then the guy shows him the main trick, which is he disappears and he takes the tree next to him with him. And this I found striking, because the tree is a symbol for the Aryan woman, the Apollonian woman, our women. And so this is actually the trick which Eisenheim is going to perform through the whole movie. He's going to disappear and take Sophie with him. He's going to take the woman with him. So this is a foreshadowing of the whole story, actually. And so if you are just interested in the plot, then you actually can shut it down now and do something more entertaining, but for the sake of the analysis, we're going on. So Eisenheim meets Sophie. He's the weird guy. He's the small guy. He's doing strange stuff with an egg. And Sophie is going to sit on a horse. He's from a noble family with other nobles around her.
And then he met her.
Don't drop it!
Careful, you're going to trip.
Drop it, you muck snipe!
Oh, watch out for that hole. Alley rat.
Drop it!
Come on.
So we have again an Adonis motif in here in the scene, because he is the weird guy, he's the type B guy, and she is on the horse, and she's with other guys from a noble family, so from her group, but she decides to follow him, to go with him, and then they get into this romantic relationship. So even at the beginning, it is shown that Sophie, that he gets to the woman, to the type A woman, to the Apollonian woman, while the other noble guys, she's not interested in. And then we make a jump, a larger step to when he comes back as an adult man and does his magic show. And this is his first trick when he comes onto the stage.
I give you Eisenheim!
So those were two raven which he released from his sleeves when he enters the stage. And raven are an important symbol, as Mark Brahmin points out, because they are messaging racial cuckolding. And we know ravens from the Odin myth, which are again referencing the Apollo myth. So Apollon loves Coronis and is in a loving relationship with her. And he has two white raven. Ravens were in the myth white back then. And those raven were like guardians of Coronis. They kept care of her. But then Coronis cheated on Apollon with a human, with a mortal man. And the raven flew to Apollon and told him about it, and he got really angry. He got the most angry ever, and because of that the raven turned black. And since then, raven are used as a messaging signal for racial cuckoldry, according to Mark Brahm's Interpretatio Romana. And at least at this movie, this is undoubtedly the case. So the next trick is the orange tree trick. I'm going to play it. He grows an orange tree out of a golden pot, and this again is significant because the tree again is a reference to the Apollonian woman, to the Aryan woman, and it is an orange tree, and the orange, the fruit, has some vagina, some resemblance when you cut it in half. So we have often in advertisements or some stock photos. Or this is some political advertisement from the Green Juice feminist advertisement, which all use cut in half oranges to represent a vagina. And often, of course, it's the red orange, but you can also use the orange. That's the trick. And so in the movie, it's not as clear because he cuts it the wrong way. But now look at this. He takes the semen, and he puts the semen into the golden pot, and then he grows the tree from it. So we have the pot again. It's some hollow thing. So it is some reference to a female worm, especially because he grows something in it, and it's golden, so it's a reference to an Aryan worm. And then he puts his semen into it. So this is a clear reproduction symbol, which again is foreshadowing what he's going to do. He's planning to get Sophie. And the orange tree trick is written down in this kind of a book and a notepad. And this is really similar, I thought, to the playbook from Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother, where he puts down his plays to get women. So actually this is just a play to get the women, what I read here. It can't be a reference to How I Met Your Mother, because How I Met Your Mother is produced in 2009, later than The Illusionist. But maybe they have a common thing they both reference. This playbook motif might be something reoccurring. But that's just a thought of mine. So the playbook isn't something Mark Brahmin talked about already. So the next trick is Sophie in the mirror. Let's first have a look at the clothes. So he is clothed in a dark suit, a brown vest, and dark trouser. She is all in blue, gold, and white. So this is all Apollonian colors. This is all Dionysian colors, except of the shirt. It's white, but that might be just the default thing to wear. Everyone has a white shirt. And the prince is also in blue and gold, but he has those red things here. I don't know what to do with them. But in all, the color conventions are met. And then now comes the trick where Eisenheim has Sophie come to the stage. So he puts this red coat onto her. And
now please gaze directly into my eyes. Look nowhere else.
so this is a very dominant gesture where he puts his palm into her face and she's all gone. And yes, the most important thing about this scene is actually the coat, I think. It even puts it up above her head. And the red color is, as I said at the beginning, a signifier for interracial admixture. And so this is again a foreshadowing of him getting her, basically. So now we come to the scene where Eisenheim performs at the house of the prince, at the castle. And he does this trick where he takes the sword of the prince and attaches it to the floor, and no one can pull it away except of the prince, who pulls it at last. And so we have here this very clear Arthur reference. And this is interesting because, again, in the Arthur myth, as Mark Brahmin points out in his writings, there is again a Adonis motive, or a cuckolding going on, because Arthur's wife, Guinevere, I don't know actually how to pronounce it in English. So I just say Arthur's wife, this woman here, again a Apollonian woman, an Aryan woman. She cheats with the knight Lancelot, which is the Dionysian figure in this myth, and they run away. That's what I want to say. So we have again a cuckolding reference here with the Arthur's trick. And now we take another look at the scene.
Come now, if you can't pull it out, you'll never be emperor.
Your father will live to be 100.
So at last he pulls the sword, so he is now the Arthur figure. And this is what I found really funny about the scene, because it has, I identified 3 layers. So there's the official layer, which is that the prince invites Eisenheim to perform at his house. And so Eisenheim is the entertainer, and the prince is the boss of the evening. There's a clear hierarchy here. And on this official level, the prince at last gets the chance to pull the sword, and so he gets the king role. The royal dignity is given to him. And the second layer is that the prince wants to know how the tricks of Eisenheim work. So this is actually the reason why he asked him to come to his house. So he wants to be really close to the performance and see through this trick. So he wants to get clarity. And this is again an Apollonian characteristic. And Eisenheim wants to delude. He wants to illusionize. He is the illusionist, so this is the Dionysian characteristic. So this is the second layer, but the prince doesn't get to know how the trick works. He is as wise as before. He can't see through it, and so here Eisenheim wins, and the prince loses. And then we have the third layer, which we see when the prince looks at Eisenheim like he says, "Let me pull that sword. If you don't let me pull it, I will be embarrassed in front of the whole audience. So I need to get this sword to have my role as the king or the future king." And then Eisenheim is like, "If you want, you can pull it. I don't mind." And then he pulls it and is really happy. He has the sword. But what Eisenheim actually is saying with this is, "You cuckold, I'm going to fuck your wife." Because now the prince is in the Arthur role. He has the Arthur myth placed upon him. And this is exactly how it is going to play out. Eisenheim is going to get Sophie like Arthur lost his wife to Lancelot. So the last trick is the Revenant trick, where he does the smoke figure against smoke and Dionysian symbol. So he
Tell us, please, who murdered you?
Someone. Here.
Tell us, heute mal. Was it the Crown Prince?
He's killed the woman before! Hey, the Crown Prince isn't even here. The prince must be done!
So the ghost of Sophie he creates is implying that the prince murdered her, and the audience buys it, and so he steers up the audience against the prince. And now there's some blood symbolism on the horse and on Sophie's body, which again symbol for intermixture. And yes, last thing I want to say, or one of the last things I want to say, is that actually, if you think about it, Prince Leopold did nothing wrong. If you just look the film without much and not spending much thought on it, you have the prince as the bad person and Eisenheim as the good person, which is not based on any reason, because you just assume this because you think that the prince killed Sophie through most of the movie. And then just at the end, this is falsified, but you still think the prince is the bad person. You don't revise this. So if you think about what's actually what Prince Leopold has done to earn this baddie role, and you find out nothing. So he didn't. Some people I talked to said, well, he didn't kill her, but he still hurt her really bad, and she could have died from that wound. But no, there's a clear hint that he didn't hurt her at all. He just was knocked out by a drug she gave to him, and she is placing the evidence, false blood on his sword and at the crime scene. So he didn't hurt her. There's one scene where he slaps her, but that again was after she drugged her. She drugged him, yes. After she drugged him, he slapped her. So we can argue maybe he shouldn't do that. But again, he was under drugs, so I can't blame him. And yes, there's nothing in the whole story which you actually can blame the prince for, but he still is the baddie, and I have no idea why. And the Eisenheim, there's this situation where Eisenheim got Sophie. Everyone thinks Sophie is dead, but she isn't. Only Eisenheim knows where she is. No one is interested in Eisenheim. No one thinks he did anything to her. So he could just have left everyone alone and had his happy life with Sophie. But instead, he pursued his fight against the prince and pushed him so long and charged him with so much wrong evidence until the prince believed himself that he killed Sophie, which isn't true. So the Polonian man is brought to believe that he had done something wrong, that he is guilty of some capital crime which he never committed, while Eisenheim pushes his fight against Prince Leopold for no reason at all, out of pure evil. I can't explain it otherwise. The last thing here, the Walter Uhl figure, he's kind of that helping figure. He's probably in type A, an Apollonian figure, as I pointed out at the beginning. And so he does this thing that he first is on the side of the prince, then he does some moral contemplation, and he gets some bad conscience and stuff, and then he thinks, oh, I need to go to Eisenheim, and I need to hear what Eisenheim says, and Eisenheim tricks and deceives him, and in the end Walter Uhl is helping Eisenheim, even if not willingly, but he anyway does. And this is what I now call the absurdus motif, which is again nothing from Mark Braham's writings, but maybe he will adapt it. Because the absurdus myth is the part of Jason and the Argonauts, where Jason got the golden fleece from the king. Jason again is the Dionysian figure, the trickster god, the deceiving, the clever Odysseus-like figure, and the king is the Apollonian figure because he has the golden fleece, and they're all kind of Apollonian signals, which Mark Braham points out in his writings. And then when the daughter of the king goes with Jason, so he even gets again the Aryan woman here. But the most the thing I want to point to is that the king sends his son Absyrtos to chase after Jason, and then the son even gets hold on Jason, but he doesn't just do full berserker mode and kill all their Argonauts or something and get the fleece, but he starts to speak with Jason and gets in negotiations where Jason tricks him, deceives him, and he is at the end thrown into the ocean. So his father, who follows him, the father of Absyrtos, the king who follows him, has to pull him out and bury him. So this is costing him very much time, and Jason has the chance to flee the scene. So here, Absyrtos, because of moral contemplations and wanting to be the good boy, helps unwillingly the course of Jason and helps him to flee with the fleece and with Medea, the daughter. And this is kind of what Walter Uhl does. So there are some inconsistencies and contradictions which I want to point to. So Sophie has dark clothes at 2 occasions, but those are both when she meets with Eisenheim and cheats on the prince. So this could very well be some hint on that she's here going onto the dark side. And the prince has those uniforms, 2 times blue, 1 times white, and he has a golden white pajama. Then he has this hunting dress, and he has a kind of blue dark jacket when he kills himself. This is his clothing. And well, the blue thing, I guess it's blue, maybe it's black, but I think it's blue. That's alright, so it's an Apollonian color. The pajama is alright, and those are alright. I think they have some red, but this is not as important, I guess. But what I'm not confident with is this uniform, because there's a lot of red. Why is this red? And especially if you look at the original uniform, which this is copied from. This is a original Austrian uniform from the time. So here those are very well made. This is really detailed, the copy, and here as well. So why did they choose the uniform? They could just have again taken the blue one. It wouldn't matter. But they have this with the red. Why the red? And the hunting dress, okay, you do wear this kind of clothes when you go hunting, so it would be weird if he has just some blue thing or some white thing. But why the hunting scene at all? It isn't an important scene actually. It's just very short, and he does some conversations there. They could have done that somewhere else. There was no need for the hunting dress, so why do they incorporate it? And yes, here the red uniform, which is not even exactly because of that thing here, that belt. It's actually red, white, red. It's the Austrian colors from the flag, and they changed it to black, red, black, white. Did they do it? I don't know. I don't have an explanation here, but I feel there is actually in need of an explanation because that's too significant. So then the amulet. What does it mean? I have one interpretation. That could be we have the wood, which is representative for the Aryan woman, and his picture inside of it. So he wants to get into the Aryan woman. So that might be the interpretation, but I don't know. I don't feel sure with it. So I just leave that here. And yes, then there's something on the amulet which might be an angel, which again is an Apollonian signifier, but it also could be a butterfly because of that stuff on the head. And there are other butterflies at the orange tree trick, which I don't have an explanation for. They are really weird. They feel out of place in that trick. You have that orange tree and there's some weird butterflies carrying a napkin. Why? That doesn't fit. So I feel there needs to be an explanation for butterflies, but I didn't find anything about butterflies in Mark Brahmin's writings. And I didn't get any idea by myself, so I just leave that as well. And we have the surname of Abramovich, which is Edward. And Edward comes from the English name Edward, and Edward was identified by Mark Brahmin as a Apollonian signifier, which is contradictive to all of the other symbols. So I don't know, maybe Mark Brahmin was wrong, or it's just not important because it's just the surname, doesn't matter, I don't know. But there are some contradictions here. So, but please don't do the skeptics thing. We have this YouTube community in Germany, which we call the skeptics, and they do just like point out some minor contradictions and say like, oh, debunked. And I'm not going to do that, so the symbol language doesn't have to be 100% consistent. That's not required. It needs to be consistent enough to transport information. So the result of the interpretation must not be random. That's the important thing. But it doesn't have to be 100% clear. And so it isn't too bad if there are some contradictions, but I just wanted to point them out for comprehensiveness. Yes, and here I'm at the end of my presentation. And if you enjoyed this video and you speak German, you can also watch my other videos. Otherwise, I don't know if there will be any more English videos. Maybe if Mark Brahmin actually answers to this or does some review, I would really appreciate that. And maybe I'm going to do more English reviews then, but I'm not sure yet. So have a good night.